somewhat.
Right. Countdown. Hello, everybody. This is Tiffany, and we are here.
Tiffany, we just lost your sound.
Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Tiffany. I'm having technical difficulties tonight, so thank you, everybody, for being patient. I just wanted to let everyone know that we have a really, really big announcement tonight, in addition to our interview with Mr. Kenneth Robinson of Freedom Fighting Missionaries. And so please stay on so that you can hear the announcement. We also have possibly 2 more guests that are going to be joining us. So again, we have some really, really great conversation going on tonight. And so I hope that you will stay on for the whole one. This is our community piece where we talk to community leaders, advocates, nonprofits about what they're doing in the community. And for tonight, we are talking to Kenny Robinson, the founder of Freedom Fighting Missionaries. Hi, Kenny. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you for having me.
Yes, well, it's really nice to see you. I'm sorry that I was not able to get out there personally to see you. As you can hear, my little one in the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to quiet her little self down. And so I have with us Terrence and also, or should I say Gray? He's going to have to correct me until I get it right. We have Gray with us tonight, and we also have Eric with us. They are the 2 gentlemen who are interested in being our male co-host, our permanent male co-host. So the last couple of weeks we have been auditioning, as I would like to say, because I feel like this is a platform for people to not only show their ideas and their views, but it's also something where you have to really be able to talk to people, get along with people, and really just tap into events and the issues and the causes and so forth that are going on in the community. So I invited them back here with me today. And so I'm going to let Gray go ahead and get us going while I try to get my little lady taken care of over here. Thank you.
Oh, you just gonna throw me in the fire like that?
I did. I threw you in the fire.
It's hot, too. It's hot,
you got this. I'll be right back.
Well, as I got a couple people watching, so yeah, I'm Gray, and I'm here in sunny Atlanta. It's not actually stormy here. We're having a great day, and apparently we've got some other folks on the line. I'm not acquainted with them. Raise your hand if you're Kenneth. Is somebody Kenneth?
Can you see me?
Kenneth, my man. There he is. All right. What's happening? How are you?
I'm doing well. Hope you are.
Perfect. You got a pretty powerful mission over there, man. So I can't wait to hear a little bit more about it and kind of get into it and understand it. But I'm a speaker and a life coach. I have my own podcast as well. It's all audio. It's called the Just a Tip podcast. I'm an executive with a media company here in Atlanta called Gold Strand Media. I'm wearing my shirt today, if you can see it. And we're doing some positive things. So I'm excited to be here in your company today, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this conversation goes. Everybody, I typically say some wild stuff, so you never know with me. I might say something crazy, and I hope nobody's going to be offended or put off, because it's really about getting the conversation going, not offending anybody.
All right, well, let's go.
I don't even have personal feelings about it.
All right, well, let's go.
Let's do it.
And who else do we have here with us?
Oh yeah, brother, introduce yourself, man. I
All
didn't
right.
catch
Well,
your name. I don't want to, you know.
I'm Eric. Yes,
Hey,
sir.
Eric.
Is
Oh,
that
you're
it?
good. You're good. I'm Eric. I'm also in Atlanta. Well, I'm just south of Atlanta, outside of McDonough.
Okay.
I also have my own podcast. I basically do politics, news, and kind of tell everybody the things that the news don't tell you. A lot of times I break down bills. I just go read the 2,000 words of the bills, and that way everybody knows what's exactly in. They don't be in them.
Okay.
I run a company in Stone Mountain, which I really enjoy. I like that side of town. You know, it's a little on the rough side lately, but I like being over there. I like the people in Stone Mountains, so I fit in with them a little bit. So it's a good part of town. I love Atlanta. I'm originally from Ohio, and my job sent me down here to do what I can do with this facility down here, and we're now successful. So I'm really excited about that. But I really enjoy Atlanta. I feel like I haven't even done 10% of the stuff that there is to do in Atlanta. So I got a little ways to go.
That's probably true, man. I've been here 22 years.
All right, y'all. I think I got my
Right. And I'm also big.
I think I got my audio working. Thank y'all. I'm sorry. Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you just fine. We was going through introductions.
Okay. Okay. Good. I'm so
Go ahead
sorry.
and finish up, Eric. I'm running the show now, Tiffany. Go ahead.
Get to it, brother.
All right, Kenny. So I think I've got.
You're doing a good job. Hey, Sunshine, we don't even need you.
Oh no!
Wow.
Okay, I'm gone.
But
I'm gone.
You've been replaced, Tiffany.
All right. Okay, so I think I've got everything straight. I think I'm good to go.
But
here.
I was just gonna finish up saying.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Eric.
I was just gonna finish up by saying, like, I'm big in the church. I really like outreach. I think what the topic we're going to talk about is going to be huge for me, and I'm really excited to hear more about the program, hear more about the outreach, the people that you're trying to help and initiate these systems. I think that we're not doing enough throughout the country to do more for people. So I'm really excited to hear everything that your organization is about.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. So Kenny, let's go ahead and get into it, since I'm just all over the place right now. So I appreciate y'all's patience. Kenny, I would really like for you to kind of start off and tell us what Freedom Fighting Missionaries is and what your mission and purpose is. And then I want to talk to you about what motivated you to start Freedom Fighting Missionaries.
Thank you. And I am Kenneth Robinson, the founder and executive director of Freedom Fighting Missionaries, a 501c3 reentry organization based in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we serve justice-involved individuals, their families, including men and women who are exiting jail and or prison. And this work derived from my own lived experience here in Charlotte, North Carolina, after serving 10 years and being released here in 2012, and set out to figure things out on my own with little to no basic resources to begin a reentry journey, and on a pathway back to prison, not by no crime being committed other than to send a man out and to the world with nothing, only the clothes on his back. And that is what compelled me to push forward and fight to get myself in a position to take care of myself and my children. And once I was able to do that, it still was on my heart to go back to assist the community.
Okay. So I know that the last believe the last few days, if not about the last week or two, you've been posting about you getting out of incarceration and kind of what started your journey. And so I'm really curious to know, when it comes to getting out, what does that look like for someone that is getting out of incarceration when you got out versus now? So when you got out, were there any resources? Was anybody putting anything in place for you before you were released? What did that look like for someone that was getting out back then when you got out?
I got out in 2012, and what that looked like then and what it continues to look like now, across much of the United States of America, despite our efforts to fight for real change. What that looks like is similar to what it looked like in 1865 when slavery ended, and men and women and families were all of a sudden released and told to figure it out on their own. So, some over 200 years later, in the one area that is still within the Constitution of this country, the 13th Amendment, which gives governments the right to treat those with a felony record as less than a man. We are still continuing to be released with nothing, no 4 acres, no mule, no basic means of survival. Basic means of survival include things like identifications, food, water, clean air.
You're free now to go. Yeah, you got
safe and affordable place to stay, meaningful and sustainable employment, and or a pathway to upward mobility. And those are the things that I faced in 2012 when I was released. And the one out of about every 10,000 individuals who are released across the country, I was one of the 10,000 that was able to navigate my way around some of the barriers in order to find employment, maintain employment, and lift my bootless self up by my bootstraps, right, with no boots. And once I was able to do that, I felt compelled to assist others on that pathway, not knowing that we would break barriers and make changes and make history, but only just wanting to assist individuals to navigate around barriers, not try to break them down. And we continue to do that, and to do it through a lens where we are at the bottom of a mountain with the pickaxe picking away. So although we have made some historic achievements here in Charlotte throughout reentry, it is just a chip away at a mountain, the way that we look at it across the nation and across history.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have Mr. Lorenzo Steele Jr. on the line, and he has a museum on a bus museum, where he shares images of those who've been incarcerated and the trials that people go through while they're incarcerated. So Lorenzo, I don't see you on camera, but I can hear you. Can you tell us a little bit more?
You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, we having technical difficulties over here. Yes, my name is Lorenzo Steele Jr., and I'm a former New York City Department Correction Officer. From 1987 to 1999, I worked in the infamous Rikers Island. After serving 12 years on Rikers Island, you know, there are things that I've seen and witnessed that still to this day traumatize me for the rest of my life. But while I was on, you know, Rikers Island as an officer, I used to carry my camera and, you know, just taking pictures of common areas and, you know, things like that, not knowing that God was going to use me as a vessel to educate and inform youth about, you know, the consequence of negative choices and decisions, hoping that they realize that, you know, that jail system is the last place on earth that they ever want to go to. So after the 12 years, I went immediately into neighborhoods in New York City that, if you look at the statistics, there's about 6 or 7 communities in New York City that you have a large population that populate those 72 prisons in upstate New York. And I would go into those school districts with the information. If you can imagine doing PowerPoint presentations to sometimes 500 students in the auditorium, just showing them the images and the stories that actually go behind it. So I use visual art to actually change habits and behaviors that could lead to incarceration. And so I used to, on my spare time, I put the photographs on easels, and imagine doing an art exhibition in front of housing developments. And the reason that I did that is because, statistics says, Black and brown people don't go to museums. So I actually brought the museum to them. And so as time went on, my caravan got small, the program kept evolving, and then I got divorced, came down to Charlotte. Only been down here 7 years, and it still kept growing. And so I decided to get a school bus, and I got a grant and purchased a school bus. I painted it gray, and inside the bus are actually the images, installations of Rikers Island, and then I have a political side showing you the politics behind mass incarceration, slavery, and the prison industrial complex as a whole. And I also hold a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. So there's nothing that it's stopping me. I have mass information about the system, working in it, and what I do now is just give youth the information, and it actually blows them away. I spoke to about 300 students today. I work in a charter school, and 300 students got on the bus today, and it was amazing.
Wow. That is amazing. So I just met you over the weekend, and when I met you, I immediately thought about the interview tonight with Kenny, and so I wanted to make sure that I connected the two of you, because I think it's pretty obvious how the two of you would be able to work together, and y'all would be able to support each other's work, but also because I just really think that what both of y'all are doing is really, really important to our community. I am working currently with DJJ and the juveniles in Mecklenburg County, and I'm working with them to help them with reintegrating back into the community. And before that, I used to work with reentry adults and putting them through school, mainly CDL school and like HVAC and so forth, to help those that were coming out of incarceration be able to provide for their families. And I just thought it was horrible, the different stories and the different narratives that I was hearing from the men. It was mostly men that I was helping send to school, and they were saying that they were either homeless or they had to live with family because they couldn't find a job. And they were just telling me about the woes of getting out of incarceration and the lack of resources. They just open a door, give you your personal belongings, and that's it. And it was just something that I didn't understand. I've never been in that situation before, God willing, but I also just really felt a deep need to be able to help the reentry population. And so that's something that I've been pretty passionate about, and one of the reasons why I connected with Kenny to begin with. So Kenny, I just attended your gala a few months ago, and you were celebrating a really big accomplishment. Can you tell us about that accomplishment?
That gala was a culmination of accomplishments, not just for myself, for us at Freedom Fighting Missionaries, but for our supporters who have supported this work since 2020. Many of them $10, $20, and $30 at a time, where we were celebrating the fact that we have made it to the point to construct and build our own housing that is specifically for justice involved individuals and their families. Something that again has never happened before in Charlotte, North Carolina. And as I'm speaking, I'm always acknowledge our achievements and accomplishments, but I'm also mindful to not let what we see as crumbs seem as though the community, the government, banks, foundations have supported this work in a meaningful way. So we did want to bring together the few. And although we had 532 people in attendance, I still consider that the few people in the city of close to 2 million who have shown clear and concise concern for a population of people who experience homelessness, who experience death, experience poverty at a much higher rate than the rest of the general population. Um, and I agreed to come on the show tonight to express those things, right? Not in anger, not in passion, but in clear data. It's not my data. It is the data that is compiled across many different agencies. Um, and although we advocate strongly, our mission statement is for criminal justice involved and formerly incarcerated men and women. It has now gotten to the point to where those things have become so extreme and the lack of valuable resources so bad that it is now in our children. Right? And that will just continue a cycle that I went through and that many others went through. Where right now in the city of Charlotte, currently in the CMS school system, there's 5,018 children who are currently homeless, accounted for as homeless, and in the McKinney-Vento system for homelessness, where 76.9% of those students are Black. So that means 3,717 of our children are currently experiencing homelessness, where their parents and caregiver have a barrier to upward mobility that is a criminal background, and that is generational poverty. So out of that 4,815 students last year, 5,018 now, 193 of them are white, right? Which signals to us in the city of Charlotte and Mecklenburg County that, in fact, we are doing something right when it comes to homelessness and when it comes to addressing people who have barriers, because we are successfully at a 4% homeless rate amongst white families and children in Charlotte and Mecklenburg County. So we have proven that we can address homelessness, right, if only 4% of homeless children in Mecklenburg and CMS schools are white. We're doing something right. We just need to reverse that around to the 3,717 children who are Black, and many of them face caregivers and parents who are simply unable to move forward due to a shoplifting charge from 1999 or 2009 or 2019. It's very typical for our minds to go towards a person who has a background as being a murderer, as being a robber, as being a drug dealer. But it really doesn't matter. The box is there. It wouldn't matter if you was a murderer or if you were a shoplifter. You're just simply unable to move past that box. And those is just a few things that I wanted to express and get off of my chest, because these are the families that we work with today, where we had 11 different families contact us on just today, seeking assistance, seeking housing, and seeking some of the very basic resources. We actively serve around 67% of women with children, which means that we serve more single women with children than we do single men on any given day, week, month. And it is consistently 95% of them are Black and Charlotte natives.
Yeah, those are some outstanding numbers. And I have to agree, just being in social work for the last 14 years and going into therapy that I have seen that. I've seen how, working with children coming from traumatic homes, that a lot of the parents have charges. I've seen as little as a mom having a charge, for me being in domestic violence community, from, just defending herself and stabbed someone in defense, and lost a job that she had for 10 years because she was defending herself, and she's still dealing with that and not able to get a decent job while she's going through the system. So we had to connect her with a lawyer that would take her case, pro bono. So I see it a lot, with people not being able to move forward, even just with the charge, not even going into incarceration. So I can't imagine coming out of incarceration after years and just not having anything at all.
Justice involvement, right? Having went through the court system, period. Not necessarily having
So while we are waiting for Kenny to reconnect, I just wanted to talk to you, Eric, because I know that on your podcast you talk about politics and government and so forth. And from your end, what have you seen when it comes to this issue, that it's not just affecting Charlotte, but it's also affecting, I'm sure, big cities like Atlanta too. What is your take on the prison system and, those that are getting out of incarceration?
Statistics, we're over 80% recidivism. But I mean, we're at over 80% recidivism. Federal. Come on, man. I might be. It's doing something.
Trying to get my camera adjusted on this lab.
Yeah, Eric, we don't have bad weather here, man. You okay? It might be Tiffany's connection.
It should be working. It's sunny out. Still.
It's not me. I'm good now.
Well, we got to get we need an IT person.
I know. It looks like it. But I can hear you, Eric. Go ahead.
Am I back? Can y'all hear me?
Okay.
Sorry about that. My whole camera fell and it's on the stand and everything.
Oh, goodness. Well, Eric was speaking about his podcast. He talks about government and politics. So he was answering my question about what is his take on the reentry and justice involved crisis that we got going on.
Please share that with us, Al. All right.
Yeah, I just see, when we're looking at crime statistics on the federal level, especially people coming out of prison, we're at over 80% recidivism rate for people within 10 years of being released from prison. That's astronomical. And it's just like what Kenneth, said, there's the resources are just not there. And then you throw in the privatization of prisons. And so you lose government funds that way as well, because the government's not giving that money out to the private prisons like they would a state-run prison. So you have all those factors, and then when you look at all these politicians going on, it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, it doesn't matter. Every single one of them shows up on an election cycle, and they show up to the Black communities, they show up to the brown communities, they make 1,000 promises and they deliver nothing. So that is a very big thing that we need to address. Like, if you're going to make us a promise in this community that's potentially an at-risk community that has issues, like real life issues that are in need of some leadership and some resolve, if you're going to make those promises, you better deliver, because the people in these communities are waiting are waiting on leadership. They're waiting on someone to say, we're going to come in and we're going to provide resources. And the good thing is we have people like Kenneth that go into these communities. We're not waiting on the government to do their job. We're going to go in and create programs that are going to help people person by person, 10 people by 10 people, get to 100, get to 1,000. Eventually we're going to, outreach more people. So I highly encourage. And I did have a question for you, Kenneth. Do you have any pushback from any of the law enforcement agencies in Charlotte for what you do?
Good question.
No.
That's a great question.
In fact, one of our biggest supporters is the sheriff here in Mecklenburg County, Sheriff Gary McFadden, has been very supportive of our work and has created programs within the detention center to ease the strain on organizations like ours. He is one of the most progressive sheriffs in the history of this country when it as it pertains to reentry and second chances. We do have a policy within our organization to not talk about, bother the police, right? We can't beat them, right? They're a very powerful brotherhood and force, and we leave them alone and they leave us alone, right? But we try to stick to that. Again, the detention center and the sheriff's office have been very supportive, and the CMPD have been very neutral, and that is a win for us, right, in our community. Not that they oppose or go against any of the work that we do, but they have their own programs that's designed to do community work. And reentry just simply isn't one of them, and that's okay as long as they are not trying to create additional barriers for us. So we are one of the more blessed communities that we do have the support of the detention center and our sheriff.
Tiffany, I have a question from some of my viewers.
Sure.
So what is one of the solution? What is one solution that you think government entities can implement immediately without bureaucracy if they really wanted to?
They could issue direct funding to multiple reentry organizations on a government level and a community-based organization. Billions of dollars just went into the last bill, Eric. I'm sure you was following that, and it is heading to Ukraine and Israel. Billions of dollars.
Billions.
So the money is there. We print money. Infrastructures are there with community-based organizations, even government reentry programs. But we would need direct influx of funding similar to what is leaving out of the country today to never return.
That's a good question.
Absolutely.
Did you have any other questions, Terry?
There you go with that again. I'm telling you,
two
cards.
You're never gonna
cards. Like, it's too many people watching this, Tiffany. Yeah, you need cue cards. Kenneth, quick question for you from my perspective. It's just two questions, two-part. One, how long were you incarcerated, if you don't mind me asking? And the second part is, what was the crime you were accused of?
I did 10 years in federal prison on a bank robbery conviction after 2 trials, which means I went to trial, had a mistrial in the first trial, had 1 juror to not vote for not guilty, and they tried it again. I mean, you're talking about a federal system who has a nearly 99% conviction rate. So if they elect to try you again, then it's no holds barred. And that was my first time out, first time to prison, and got 10 years. In fact, I got an extra 3 years for the criminal history that I did not have, right? Which means that the judge in the case motioned for upward departure outside of the guidelines because of the background that I did not have, right? and stated that my criminal history points didn't truly reflect the seriousness of the things I had been involved in the past, and gave me an extra 3 years for the record I didn't have.
Wow.
Wow. So when you started Freedom Fighting Missionaries, what was your number one goal then? When you first started, what was your number one goal in starting your organization? Your
To
top
be
goal?
able to assist men and women who have a background, and teach them how to navigate around barriers similar in a way that I was able to do. I went to every place that you could go to, looking for services and looking for assistance. So I, in fact, knew then and I know now every place not to go. Right, they just simply aren't going to help you there. And I knew the few places and people within those places who would assist you. And my goal was to help others be able to do that and have a pathway towards self-sufficiency.
Okay.
And of course, what happened. The pandemic came, George Floyd came. We put forth our bodies, men and women who otherwise never was going to have a background, have one now, simply because of protests and George Floyd and the many other senseless murders that were carried out across the country against people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that was what compelled me to get into the work, have no control over the economy, the weather, and the things that happen elsewhere. But we responded to those things with our bodies, where one man is, two people are serving life sentences, two people are no longer with us simply because of protests, right? So
Wow.
we have put forth our body, our resources, sacrificed time with our own families, sacrificed our own career. I'm $400,000 in the wrong direction and lost revenue that I would have made had I not joined this fight and started this work. So we don't take it lightly. Anytime a black man stands up for what is right in this country, historically, that man is either murdered or in prison for the rest of their life. So we know the risks that we're taking, and we're taking them anyway for the people, with a goal that 3 to 5% of those that we serve will have a pathway to upward mobility. So it's so dire, right, that we're talking about 3 to 5%. We're not talking 40% of the people we serve, 60%. We're talking about 3 to 5% of the people that we serve that we hope would actually have a pathway to at least home ownership before they die here in Charlotte. Where there's a statistic right now today that states that if you are born poor here, then you are more likely to die poor here. And that's not my stat, that's their stat.
Right. Lorenzo, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. For you, I want to ask you the number one when you said I'm going to do this. What was the number one reason why you did this? And then I'm going to ask y'all both what has been y'all's the number one challenges for both of y'all and your respective organizations.
After he answers that, Tiffany, I got a question too.
Okay.
Another one. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow, that's a good question. You know, just seeing the violence, the day-to-day violence of black and brown people behind bars, you know, it was something that just hit my soul. And, you know, like I said before, I did 12 years, you know, as an officer, and it was unheard of at that time for
Especially
correctional officers.
Right?
Rikers Island, it was unheard of for officers just to leave. I resigned, no charges, 12 years. I never forget, I went to church one day, and as my time was winding down before I was leaving, you know, there was a lot of things that was happening. I didn't even want to go to work. And I really started to see myself as an overseer on a large plantation. And I'll never forget the day that I was working in the big yard where we might have 500 to 600 inmates in the yard. And just a thought came over my mind was like, you know, what if they would run towards me and tell me still, you know, you the overseer, you got the key, let us out. So
Right.
There were things that were going on mentally. I'll never forget, took my grandmother to church one day, and the pastor said, "Hey, if there's anything that's stressing you, let it go." That next day, I turned in my gun and I turned in my shield. And I'll never forget the lady at the office was like, "Why are you leaving?" And I almost told her, "I don't know." And she said, "Well, that's faith, because I didn't know how I was going to earn, and we was making good money back then." The black and brown faces that were coming through the receiving room for the first time, and I could still see their faces. And I immediately went into the public school system, Title I schools. I've been into over 50 to 60 different Title I schools, volunteering my time. No money, no grants, didn't even think anything about it, but just going in with the information that I had, because, I felt, there was something on my heart. I have information that could keep them from going out. We talk reform, but what are we doing to stop the next generation from going through the system? Everybody knows the term school to prison pipeline, but not too many people are talking about education starts at home. Working in these Title I schools, some of the schools are pre-K to 8. I'm in a pre-K room with 30 children, one teacher, no para, in the hood.
Yeah.
And the teacher said, "Okay, everybody, take out your papers." So I'm walking around the classroom, and I'm seeing that half the kids in the classroom in pre-K can't even pick up a pencil or a pen. No one taught them at home to put a pen or pencil in their hand and to write. So now I'm looking around, half the classroom can read and write, the other half can't. So imagine that teacher now, one teacher has to create 2 different lesson plans to accommodate her children. So we got to stop playing games with this. And part of my organization, I work at Sugar Creek Charter School, middle school, and I work at the high school. I have a partner of mine that I work in the EC department, exceptionally challenged. We got to look at those numbers of those individuals that are coming through our EC department that will populate these prisons without intervention. And so what my organization does is I have my partner. She helps parents fully understand the IEP. Imagine that child, the EC child, exceptionally challenged child, and your child, is diagnosed with this, diagnosed with that. Those parents are limited access of information themselves. They don't know how to read the information. They don't know how to fully get what the education system can afford them. So what we do is we create a system where she sits down with the parents to let them know, this is where your child is at. This is where you need to be to get your child to where he's at, because they're just pushing these children through the system. I have a 16-year-old child that can barely read.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of that working with DJJ right now, how the kids are coming in there. The crimes that they have already at 14, 15, 16 years old is just, it's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary. Go ahead, Terry.
So the question I have is, it's actually good that Lorenzo came back in, because it's primarily for him. The question is, they've been talking about closing Rikers for a minute now. What are some practical alternatives for dysfunctional prisons?
Dysfunctional prisons, you got to get into
oxymoron, I know.
Let's say deeper. You got to look at the Rikers Island is close to LaGuardia Airport. On a low tide, you can walk from LaGuardia Airport to Rikers Island. If you do some research, you'll find out that they're trying to get the land from Rikers Island so they could extend LaGuardia Airport and turn it into an international airport. It has nothing to do with the prisoners. It has all to do with the land. And if you look at the area of LaGuardia Airport, they got the new hotels. They actually upgraded. Before I came down to Charlotte, they were already upgrading the tower to the airport. So it's deeper than the inmates that are on Rikers Island. The violence during 1987 to 1999 was worse than what's happening now. We averaged 40 to 50 razor slashings a month for 12 years of my time on Rikers Island. So it has a lot. Yes, there's brutality on Rikers Island. Yes, they had to close, and the solitary confinement units that I have actually physically worked in and have photographs of. But it's deeper than what's going on. The brutality in Rikers Island, from Rikers Island's origins, it was always a violent place. So look into the property that Rikers Island sits on. But deeper than that, Rikers Island is a toxic dump site.
Wait, what?
That it is.
Rikers Island.
Done my research.
Something with you. Rikers Island is a toxic dump site. I've lost over 30 friends that died with cancer in my jail, C-74 ARDC, alone.
Wow.
To cancer. They have areas on Rikers Island that have the aluminum tubes with the ball that spins around to let the methane gas escape from the island. There's areas on Rikers Island that you can't even smoke near. They have signs that says no smoking.
Wow.
There's a whole lot of things that are going on Rikers Island that the average person does not know. But I've lost over 30 friends.
So it is closed now?
Wow. No, they're talking about closing.
Oh, okay. I was about to say I heard the talk, but I didn't know that they were officially closed.
They've been talking for a long time.
Yeah. So Kenny, I'm going to get back to my question. What has been the biggest challenge for freedom fighting?
Sorry, I had a 10-year-old walk in the door.
It's okay.
Understandable. We all got them.
Our biggest challenge continues to be community awareness and community support, and advocacy in this area. We do have a lot of supporters, but we also have a lot of people who are just misinformed, undereducated, and simply just are brainwashed and have blinders on, right? And it's just easier for them to believe that everybody who has committed a crime has committed the most heinous crime and just has no way to get on the pathway towards self-sufficiency.
Yeah. So for someone that is watching, we do have Miss Cheryl Littlejohn. She's the owner of the Legacy Event studio down in Gastonia. And I believe this was for Lorenzo. She was asking for me to connect her with you, Lorenzo. She has a nonprofit that works with teens. And so she would like for me to connect you to her. So I will make sure that I do that. And so for those that are watching, and for those like me who really believe in the fight that both of y'all are doing, how can someone like myself or Gray or Eric or other people that are watching, what can people do to help this crisis of those that are re-entering into the community to be able to have what they need? What can those that are listening do to help this situation right now? What is needed from the community first, and then I'm going to ask what is needed from lawmakers. So first, what can people in the community do to help with this crisis of those that are re-entering into the community? And that's for Kenny or Lorenzo, or both.
Go ahead, Lorenzo, you go first. Well, I'll go first.
Okay.
The biggest thing that's needed from the community almost supersedes the work that we're talking about and almost becomes spiritual, where first just begin to love your neighbor, right? And in order to love your neighbor, you'd have to know your neighbor, right? And not want to be separated from your neighbor. And then once you begin to do that, then you'll want your neighbor to thrive and be able to benefit from everything that everybody else does on the pathway to self-sufficiency and upward mobility. So we are constantly trying to educate the community that you are much safer if those who come from poverty and those who have been convicted of committing a crime are able to obtain sustainable employment, are able to have transportation, are able to drink clean water and breathe free air, and are able to have safe, affordable housing. That every statistic in the history of the world will state that a person who has those things are less likely to risk losing them. But when you take a population of people who have never had those things, don't see no pathway to obtaining them, and don't have no hope, then public safety does become a factor. So we are constantly trying to educate the community that to support this work, to love your neighbor, actually makes for a much safer environment for us all.
Yes, yes. And so for Lorenzo, are you able to answer that question? What can the community do to help? And I also have someone say, what about nonprofits? How can other nonprofits help? So let's stick with the community question. How can the community, those like me and you, your neighbors, as Kenny spoke of, help with this crisis?
Well, we have the boots on the ground. We have to allow these individuals to come into our community to give us the information and education about what's going on. When I do our workshops and speaking engagements in colleges, I call us the experts. You have the formerly incarcerated and you have former correction officers. I call us the experts. Get us into these areas, into the schools, into the churches, into the sidewalks. Also, get this information out. The average person is really not going to get this information from television. So that's, one of the reasons why I created the museum, to take the information to people.
Right.
They're on the corner. We must get this information into the schools because that's where the children are at. And, we have a couple of more weeks left and, school is out. And after that, I'm going to reach the masses. We have to mobilize, we have to collaborate, and put our heads together. Everybody has different part and piece of the pie. Put our heads together and continue to do what we're doing.
Right. Okay. So now let's talk about the lawmakers, the government. Eric, I'm gonna let you chime in here. Where do you feel, everybody here, how do you feel like the government can or I would say local government. I'm not even going to go federal. I'm going to start with the local because I maybe I'm wrong and you can correct me.
Good place to start, Tiffany.
Right. Like you have to start home first, like Lorenzo said. So how can we help in a community level before we go big?
So the issues are there. It's a demographic issue versus resource issue. So let's say part of your state congressional district is Henry County in Georgia, and let's mix that in with DeKalb County. So those are two different areas, and they have two different needs. So when you go after when you start legislating, going to your politicians and saying, here's the needs I have, but then you have the DeKalb people going, well, here's the needs I have, then he's got to make a decision as to, what is going to be the focus of the legislation that I'm going to try to create, because you have a lot of different demographics going on in those districts. And there's only so much money to go around. So in my opinion, when you look at communities that are at risk, and you look at high crime communities or areas where you have people getting released from the prison systems back into society, it's going to take more than the little bit of state legislation budget. They've let it get out of control so much and have taken so many resources away from those communities that now the problem is so astronomical, and it's going to take a federal investment into those communities. We're beyond the state now, I believe. I don't think there's much the states can do for these communities because the populations of them are so large and the needs of them are so great. And it's going to take a dollar sign. It's just like what we've talked about a little bit here. We're sending money to Ukraine in the billions, and we're ignoring these communities that have a direct need that could instantly, with those resources, could instantly positively affect our society as a whole. And we're ignoring that. Our legislators are ignoring that. It's a catastrophe, and they could fix it, but it's going to take a monetary investment to go in there and do it. And then you have to put your leadership in place. I believe it's a big circle. So you have your legislation, but I would enlist your spiritual leaders in these conversations, because those are the people that are on the streets. Those are the people that are shaking the hands, and those are the people that you generally are going to trust, to show you in a good direction. They're going to take you by the hand and put you on the right path. Then you also have organizations like Kenneth that they've been there, they've done that. They're hands-on, and even Lorenzo's doing a great thing too. So you've got these two great leaders here that have been there, done that, seen everything. They know where the loopholes and the problems are, and they're exposing it, saying here's the problems, and here's our ideas as to how we can make a difference to improve those problems. So you go from the religion, you have the legislation. Then I think you attack. I don't want to say attack. You need to go after the youth, because that's who you mold. They're still moldable. Youth is moldable. So you can put them in programs. I also think that there needs to be trade school opportunities in these communities, because generally nobody wants to spend $150,000 going to college anymore. Trade school, you get it done with a fraction of the expense, and you get just as good a pay. And we have a huge need for trade school graduates all over the place. Good luck finding an HVAC person. I'm just saying, I've been looking for one. Can't find it. So those are opportunities that you can put in these communities and say, here's an education opportunity. Here is the spiritual opportunity. Okay, now we bring our legislation in because the community's done a good job of uplifting itself with positive leadership and programs that they're bringing to the table. Now you've attracted the federal government because they're always going to clout chase anything that is good, because that's what politicians do. So I think it's a conglomerate of things that need to happen.
That's a very well researched position that you're taking there, Eric.
When you look at, I spend all day looking at this stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was some really good stuff, Eric. So I was thinking about what between what you were saying and then what Kenny was saying, and about, I want to say that I agree with you to an extent, Eric, when you said that it's more about, legislation and, having to go to federal level versus the resources, because based on what Kenny said, the resources are there. It's just they're not being shared. They're not being, circulated. They're going to who they want to make it versus, those that really, really need it. And just in the last 10 years of being in social work, I've seen that there are more employers that are giving jobs to those that are, in reentry programs. They're giving jobs. There are free trade schools out there. I work with one very closely with my DJJ. I went out and I found him, and I use him regularly for my clients. They offer free HVAC, CDL, all of that. So there are things out there. There are resources out there. It's just that they're not being provided for Black and brown people, because the resources are there. So I feel like that's another issue that has to be addressed, is those people that are in place to provide it that are not providing it.
You got to take it a step further as well, though. You have to think about the fact that it's not
Right.
just it is in fact focused on Black and brown people, but it's also Black and brown people who have been incarcerated and they're coming out and trying to get back to their lives, and their lives are they're in the process of restarting, and they have to fill out a job application, and they're going to ask, do you have any felonies? Do you have any priors? What have you? And now it's a matter of, regardless of your skill set and what it is you can and can't do, they don't want to take a risk on impacting their customers and their clients with a felon who may not have been rehabilitated.
Right.
And I think that's an excuse that's used oftentimes because they can.
Yeah,
I mean,
because if they have somebody without a charge versus somebody that does have a charge, regardless if the person with the charge has the skills or not, they most likely are going to, which is wrong, but that's the reality of the situation. So Kenny, what are you currently working on right now? What is your focus right now for Freedom Fighting?
We are very housing focused. Since we are developing our first development, that is our main focus. We also became the first reentry organization in the history of Charlotte, specifically for justice involved families. So what we are trying to do with our housing resources, the vouchers, the complex that we are building, and also any other housing assistance, is to try to solve for two things with the same resources, with the understanding that resources reach our community at a snail's pace. So what we are doing is focusing on our families who have children who are currently in CMS schools and in the McKinney-Vento system. So when we do house one of our clients, we take one person out of homelessness, but we also take 3 children out of homelessness and offer the McKinney-Vento system utilizing the same funds.
Okay.
It is difficult work to do that, but we are strategically working on that area, and also working to train as many master level social workers as we can for the case management that is needed to give the family an opportunity. What we're talking about mostly, Tiffany and Eric and Terry, it's not handouts or gifts, right? But what we're talking about is an opportunity, right? And to be able to remove excuses. And you can remove all excuses, provide all of the opportunities. And some people just simply are not going to do the right thing. We understand that, right? But we do not want that person to have an valid excuse that I had when I was released, that there just simply isn't any opportunities. Right, it just simply isn't a pathway.
Right.
And when we reach that level is when I will be satisfied. When there's equal opportunity, not only for those that are exiting jails or prison, but those that are returning from war, those who have a gender that just happen to be a woman, right? And those who have are LGBTQ, right? Plus, right? And those who have came here from another country, earned their citizenship, and are trying to move their family forward, right? So it is not just the population that we serve that we advocate for, but all equal opportunity, and let that person take that equal opportunity and make the decision for themselves versus society make the decision that you are incorrigible because of your skin, because of your gender, because of your sexual orientation, and your native motherland, or any of the things that I just stated. And when you begin to think like that, as we have at Freedom Fighting Missionaries, you move outside of just serving a community and a population, and you move over into humanity. And that is where we are at in this country now, that these are humane issues, right, that range across a broad spectrum of intersecting issues that have moved out of the inner city and over into rural America at a pace that's just astronomical. Right.
Yeah.
So the same things that I am sitting here discussing that we face in cities the size of Charlotte, there are towns with populations that's less than 20,000 who are experiencing the same issues while having white skin. Right. So we are now talking about a humane issue that almost supersedes race. And I am always quick to note that when you leave outside of major cities and get into to rural America.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
I have another question from the audience.
Right, one more question, and I got to eat and take a shower.
And it's for you too, brother. It's for you. So you got to be here for it.
We got a couple more minutes. Go ahead.
Kenny, have you contacted your local housing development agency asking if they have any funding for development, CDBG funding, or ARPA funding left over from COVID?
Yes, I have. And we were one of the organizations that received both funding. We have utilized those funds, and we exceeded our performance by 400% in some areas. And we have recently been approved to receive additional funding from both sources, while connecting other organizations to those funding sources as well.
Awesome.
So not only am I the founder and executive director of Freedom Fighting Missionaries, I also serve in my 3rd year on the Continuum of Care Board for Homelessness in the Equity and Inclusion Committee in Mecklenburg County, and vice chair of another board that focuses on street outreach and homelessness. So not only do we try to stay abreast of any funding that's out, we also try to make sure that we connect others to those funding sources as well.
Yeah.
Kenny, what is your background, brother? Like what is your background prior to your conviction? And then how long have you been out?
I've been out now for 12 years.
Okay.
My background before, I went in at the age of 24.
Okay.
And was, in the streets before that. So there's not like a book I read or a class that I have taken. This is, based off of lived experience, divine intervention, and the prayers of my grandmothers who are no longer with us, who prayed for my faraway future. I mean, I don't have another reason as to, how these things have happened other than divine intervention, because history has taught us that man would never do this. They would never try to help you. They would never try to provide land for you, food for your family, and an opportunity forward. Man would never do that. So we have to believe that. I have to believe that it's just simple divine intervention, because on paper I have a 9th grade education and a GED. Education-wise, that's it.
Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive, man.
Yeah, Kenny, I've known him for a few years. We've intersected in different places in the community, and just being able to see just in the last couple of years, the accomplishments of freedom fighting in himself. He's very humble, as y'all can tell, which is one thing that I love about him, and is, I respect about him. And I'm just really, really proud that he is continuing this work. It's something that, again, I'm very passionate about. So I was very excited that he was able to make the time to come on the private room to share, especially with, me now working with the juvenile system, and just seeing firsthand what these what the youth are going through on that end. I've dealt with adults for years, but just to see the children going through the system has been a completely different experience. And I just really think that we need to get into the schools more and get into the rec centers more and the churches, as somebody said earlier, because our kids, they're going through so much. The young man that I'm working with right now, he told me he's lost 7 friends and he's only 15 years old. 7 friends in the last 2 years, same community. Wow. And I'm just like, for a 15-year-old to lose 7 friends to violence, it's so much our kids are going through, and it's just a lot. So Kenny, thank you so much for coming on and sharing Freedom Fighting Missionaries, and sharing, you know, your journey and what you're doing and what the needs are, because it takes a community. They say it takes a village, but I'm going to say it's going to take a whole lot more at this point, not just a village. It's going to take much more than that. And I'm very appreciative of you for staying in this fight, because it's not one that is easily met or easily faced. So I appreciate you using your story to uplift people, to help people. And, you know, I'm here for it, to support you in any way I possibly can. Also want to thank Lorenzo. I see that he dropped off. We will be interviewing him in July, more on his mobile prison museum. So we will do an interview with him as well. And then my special announcement is that we were up for the male co-host seat, and you have 2 of the gentlemen here, Gray and Eric, and I couldn't make a decision. So both Gray and Eric are invited, if you will accept, to be the male co-host on the private room. So I hope that you all will stay and stick around. I love the energy that y'all bring, and I really think that y'all are going to be amazing, and we're going to have a good time. But these community pieces are important, and so I wanted to make sure that you all were able to participate in this before becoming an official team member for the private room, or the cast of the private room. So thank you, Kenny, so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Sharing with us Freedom Fighting Missionaries. Thank you, Lorenzo. I see that you are back on for sharing your mobile bus museum, and we're looking forward to having you back in July. And it looks like Eric gave me a thumbs up, and it looks like Gray gave me a thumbs up. So everybody out there that is watching, you have now met our 2 co-hosts, Gray and Eric. They will officially be joining the cast of the private room. So thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in for our community piece every first Monday of the month. Have a great
Make sure y'all go follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. One thing you have to do is type in Freedom Fighting Missionaries, and we will come up. If you have Alexa, just tell Alexa to connect you.
Yes, I'm gonna drop the link in the comments right now so that everybody can follow you, and we will be promoting you as well in the next couple of days. But I always promote you, Kenny. So we will definitely make sure that we keep you on our radar, and so that we can continue supporting you and letting the community know what you're doing. But also, we want the community to take heed to what we said, how you can help. So if you want to help, the cause, volunteer, anything like that, resources, if you have jobs, anything like that, please reach out to Kenny with Freedom Fighting Missionaries. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye. Eric and Gray, if y'all can stay on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are we no longer live?
We're ending right now. Don't say nothing bad.